Professor of Law, Yemi Osinbajo. And many persons promised, to finance the library, because it was part of the occasion as well, endowment fund for that library. But then it's about what was said 32 years after. He admitted that, the annulment was wrong. And even MKO Abiola, the late MKO Abiola, was the real winner of that election. Many persons are asking, isn't this too late? Are you saying this because that's the truth or because you want to sell a book? What kind of human being are you at that time? And then even checking what he said, it's many persons could read meaning to it. But then I said the book was reviewed by Yemi Osinbajo. Just take a look and just an excerpt, at part of what he said.
Babangida, from childhood to the highest levels of public service. It is the story or stories of a journey of a nation, our nation, Nigeria. It is the Nigerian story, complex, sometimes unpredictable, sometimes stranger than fiction, but always fascinating. Many of the key figures in this book and who shaped the history of our country are here with us today. And that tells another story all by itself. And that is something truly unique about Nigeria. Our ability to move beyond the past, no matter how bitter, and no matter how adversarial our past relationships may have been, and to still come together. So seated amongst us here today is General Yakubu Gowon, who became Nigeria's head of state at the age of 32, led the country for 9 years. His government was overthrown in 1975 by a coup involving the then Brigadier Olusegun Obasanjo and the then Brigadier Theophilus Danjuma, and the author himself, I confirm, the then Lieutenant Colonel Babangida, who was then commander of the newly formed Armored Corps. Also involved in that coup were the then Lieutenant Colonel Sonny Bello, who is here also, and Lieutenant Colonel Sani Sami. Yet, here we are today with former President Obasanjo, General Danjuma, and of course the author himself, not as adversaries of the author, but as witnesses to history, celebrating a fellow statesman. In a striking turn of fate, the author notes that it was President Obasanjo who, after the tragic assassination of General Murtala Mohammed, insisted that a young Lieutenant Colonel Babangida be appointed to the Supreme Military Council, making him the youngest member at the time. Also represented here is the immediate past president.
That was an excerpt of the review that was done at a lunch by Professor Yemi Osinbajo. But then you get to hear from the horse's mouth himself, especially the elephant in the room, the thing that has got many persons talking 32 years after IBB himself.
Credible, free and fair elections were held on June 12, 1993. However, the tragic irony of history remains that the administration that devised a near-perfect electoral system and conducted those near-perfect elections could not complete the process. That accident of history is most regrettable. The nation is entitled to expect my impression of regret. As the leader of the military administration, I accept full responsibility for all decisions taken under my watch. And June 12 happened under my watch. Mistakes, oversights, and missteps happen in quick succession. But I say in my book, in all matters we acted in the supreme national interest so that Nigeria could survive.
It's more because of the innumerable controversies.
All right, so we have with us in the studio today to give his own analysis of what he thinks about that program, especially the memoir that I've been reading by former President IBB. And he's here with us. He's a lawyer and public affairs analyst as well. Barrister Moses Obadiah, thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you for having me. Good morning.
Very quickly, and it's about that book, actually, 32 years after, you know, it's just one of those things written in that book. The book is not just about the annulment of 1993 elections, but what do you make of that? The IBB said it takes responsibility for everything that happened under his watch. He called it a nearly perfect election, but then that went south, but he takes responsibility. Although looking at the book further, there was a part that was pinned on General Sani Abacha, you know, to say he was the one responsible for that. But do you think this is too late? Or why is he coming out to say this? Is it because he wants to sell a book or he wants to rewrite history? Your take on the matter.
Thank you very much. I was trying to see one thing I want to start with, which is a philosophical statement. It says, the only real progress lies in learning to be wrong. The only real progress lies in learning to be wrong. So for him to now admit that he's wrong, it shows he's making progress.
32 years after?
Yes, I will tell you.
Yeah.
For more than 27, 20, 30 years, he always said, I will do it again. And Madam Fodi also said, he said, conscience is an open one. Only the truth can heal it. When he annulled the election, he has forgotten that Abiola was his friend. In fact, most of them, including Abacha, IBB, Danjuma, and even Yaradua, because Abiola was an international businessman. Abiola was just nobody who does not discriminate other religion or anything. So he was their man's rider. But unfortunately, Abiola said, when I wanted to contest, I went to IBB.
When you say Yaradua, you mean Shehu Musa Yaradua?
Shehu Musa Yaradua.
Not the late Umaru.
No, not the late president.
Umaru, yeah.
His senior brother. So he said he went to IBB and said, Mr. President, are you ready to go? Will I contest? He said, go ahead. So the man went, he contested, and for the first time in Nigerian history, an election was conducted with option A4. As soon as you are on the line, they count you, you know the number of the score. Every party was aware.
Right.
And the man even beat his next rival, a close rival in Kano. Abiola won the election, and when the result was coming out, the man changed the tune. And stopped them, asked them to stop the announcement. And then, before we know it, they said election, I think it's August 23, that election is cancelled. Abiola said, no, there's nothing like that. And the man went abroad. Yoruba said, look, a man died but once. Calm down. Come and fight it. And then Abiola came back. He declared himself president. He was arrested, detained, and the remaining one he history. Today, for IBB to just make that portion and said, that election is near perfect. I want to say, under the earth, there's no perfection elsewhere. Perfection is in heaven. And even when you look at election, what you can get, even in law, we call substantial justice. You cannot have absolute justice. You can't find it anywhere because it is human being that does that. So for IBB to now realize his fault, we shouldn't just end there. Because I recall about 3 or 4 years ago, a man was discovered in his 90s that he was among the acolytes of the man in Germany who put the whole world into trouble. Hitler. So he was among the people who helped Hitler to kill, and so he was arrested, sentenced, accordingly. So what we're saying is that having, in law we call it confessional statement, that he's responsible. Then what I expect the nation to do if we are going to make progress, no matter the level of his health, he should be brought to court. He should be tried according to the law of the land. Not only that, then restitution will be made. And what is restitution?
In this case of IBB?
Oh, certainly. As you said, I'm responsible. Absolutely. The thing is almost perfect. Almost. And I said there's no perfection elsewhere. What you can have is that once you score 45, even 41% in election, the president scored 32 or 38. So, and somebody's, in time of Abiola, out of the then, I think we have, is it 30 states as at that time? He won in more than 20-something states, hands down. And then you annul it and say some people within your group. So it's not only IBB that are going to face it. Those who conspire, in law we call it conspiracy.
So you are recommending IBB for trial?
Oh, certainly. That is the law. I don't forget it. There is no, you only have immunity when you are in this hot seat, when you are president, when you seek to be there. Are you aware that the president of Israel was brought to court and was jailed? In Brazil, the former president was brought to court and was jailed, not because he touched a lady, because of what he did while he's in office. In South Africa, Joseph Zuma was alleged to have done some things wrong and he was jailed. So if we are going to make progress, maybe I should quote one Peter Tosh. He said, everyone is crying out for peace. None is crying out for judgment.
Justice.
None is crying out for justice. I don't want no peace. Equal right. So if we are going to make progress, and we want somebody somewhere will not do it in the nearest future, those who are responsible for the June 1993, remember, it's not only himself. The Abacha is now blaming. It's just like when you fry maybe chicken, and you place the cat near where the thing is kept. You know Abacha now, and you say you are stepping aside, and you ask Abacha to be washing Shoneko, and before you know it, Abacha did his own. He did the Abacha, and before you know it, Abiola was arrested for declining Central State. Before you know it, tea was prepared for him. Price from America was there. Dr. Orefalomo told us that if I told you what we saw in the body of MKO Abiola, that the whole nation would be afraid. And so we're now saying that for you to have put fire in your own country, but you know how many people, even I who is speaking, I was reporting then for Concord newspaper. I escaped narrowly at Akobo. In fact, let me put it, about 5 people came with cutlass. And he came out, Jadilini. Bah. And the boy was just saying, Emma, Pau, Ekononio. And when you come back to Yanopaja, we say, Shoyinka was, don't help us. I walk from that Akogbo with a swollen leg until I get to Maryland. It was Shoyinka who helped us to get vehicle. On getting to Yanopaja, many people are dying. For 1 week, we could not come out of our building. And somebody was not saying because he has made the statement, we should just forget it like that.
So you're saying that he should be tried.
Of course.
Isn't it just a book? Like he came out to write a book about history.
Do you remember about 3 months ago that one guy wrote a book against Afe Babalola?
Okay.
Where did he find himself? He was incarcerated. He was charged to court. A book.
You're referring to Dele Farotimi?
Yes, Dele Farotimi. So if he wrote a book, we will extract from the content and say.
So you take it as a confessional statement?
Oh, certainly. It's a record. How do you research? This is what people have said. How do we know what Hitler did? How do you know what Awolowo did? It's from his book.
So he made mention of things. He has been called the Maradona for a reason. There's a reason because of his dribbling antics while he was in power. And many persons say he's smart and brilliant. And, he played the country so many times. In fact, some of the authors, some of the speakers at that event spoke about his Maradonic ways. Looking through what he said, especially with what he read, a portion of the book, say he takes responsibility for the annulment. And that everything that happened, including June 12, happened under him. So he regrets it. Managers will say that's being clever by half, that you are still doing your Maradonic way. You are not saying, I did it. I apologize for what I've done. You know, there are two different things. For somebody to say, I did this thing, and somebody to say, what has happened under me, although very bad, I take responsibility. So, do you still see him doing the Maradonic thing in the way he coined that particular admittance of that wrong?
Let me also quote from somebody.
Right.
And that's Graham Greene. He said, our worst enemies here are not the ignorant and simple, however cruel. Our worst enemy are the intelligent and corrupt people.
Okay.
The man's IBB, highly intelligent. And in fact, he was called the evil genius.
Yeah, the evil genius.
And if you look around, there used to be one major from Niger Delta who said that the man made money, and that through IBB he also got money, and that he was sent abroad to go and buy weapons. That on getting there, he realized he was just to sign off the money, and then the weapon will not be brought. He still refused, and the lady was called IBB and said he refused to sign. He said, sign the money. And so when in time of money, one of the richest Nigerians is IBB. When we look at all this one together, you are not just going to be, yes, you will see whatever it is under, either you call it military or presidential, it ends at the tables of the president. He owns, he accepts responsibility. But we are now saying that the man who announced the June 12 election annulment was IBB. For him to now say it was Sonny Abacha who now this and that one is secondary. The fact remains that he was there. Election was conducted under our, just like under our own law. Once election is conducted, it's only courts that can nullify it. And people went to court. A lot of things were done. Innocent people were. Are you aware that some innocent Nigerians died? There used to be a very rich man who lived in GRA from Niger Delta there, who was the father of Nadeko. I can't remember his name now. Was shot in his bed because of this issue. Olu Onogorua's firstborn.
From Ibrahim Badamasi, you mean?
No, not Abraham. This man, I don't know why his name escaped me. He's from Wari.
Okay.
So he has been a PA to Awolowo when he was struggling in the days of AD. So he has in GRA. Olu Onogorua's son, because Onogorua have disagreement with IBB, he has to go. A lot of people went by. And remember the story of Dele Giwa too. So there's so many things that we can bring him to court. But the issue is, if on this just an aspect of June 12, which we felt it was an injustice for the man to have won election, the man was incarcerated, the man was eventually poisoned, and the man have to die, his businesses has to suffer, some money, federal government say, we have not been paid till today. So you now just say, because you have told us, we just forget it.
Well, MKO didn't die under him. MKO died under Abacha.
Now, let me put it in law.
And Abacha is not even here to defend himself.
Let me tell you now, in law, let me give a practical example.
Yes, please.
A man took another man to the top of a mountain and threw him from that mountain. And he landed in the valley. And the man assumed he has died. Then he left. Somebody eventually came, took him to the hospital. Eventually he died. So as a layman, you will say it wasn't the one that killed him. But who was the one that was the engineer who is being thrown off? Until to that level. So if the June 12 crisis has not come, if Shonekon has not been asked to act in the capacity he's not entitled, will MKO be incarcerated? Right. Will he have been able to begin to say, I know grill, it's my turn, these are the other things. So if we are going to say that because he was not there when he died, the question is, who took his right? You can't take biscuit from a baby and will not cry. Right. Not to talk of an adult. Deny him of the money he spent. In fact, the first man who went on an electronic campaign was MKO. He spent all his resources. He spent all his energy, and eventually he lost his wife on the same issue. And you say we should just forget it like that? No, there must be justice.
Somehow is let's say, is IBB actually, I don't know how to put it, but is he aware of this, that somehow this particular acceptance is going to bring him out into the public or to the courts? Is it something that he's aware of, that because he wrote it as a book, and he wasn't probably envisioning that he's going to get to this case you're talking about, bringing him out to the court. Yes,
that
so
possibly envisaged problem.
But he knows the country that we are spineless, that we are a country where people will not take you up, but in other climes you'll be taken up on this issue. No, because you have to use, just say it's a book. I've written 2 books, and I'm very careful of the people I cited to be sure my facts are true. So if in the process of writing my book and I lie, I describe you negatively, you have a right to sue me because I'm the author. In fact, in the writing, is there. I authored this book, so and so. So you'll be held responsible. So if in the public domain, records that you have just played the recording now.
Yes.
And it's still going to go viral worldwide. And we are now saying that if in the place where we're going to expect justice, the man will have to pay to the family for the belief he doesn't have. The state, because he was the symbol of the state as at the time when the announcement was done. So the man spent money. His company was folded. They didn't pay his company because he dared to challenge the then federal government. And Concord newspaper was folded up. Concord Airlines gone. Concord Oil gone. And many other more. So let's put that one, because life is sacred.
All right.
Yes, he didn't kill, but who ordered that he should be arrested? Why was it arrested? Who are those ones he said they do not want this man? Remember, he may not say it now, but he has said it once. That it was not his only single-handed decision. That it was a collective. So those people will count it as conspiracy to deny the man of the rights of ascending to the seat of presidency of Nigeria.
So, Barrister, from what you've said so far, who has the right to actually call IBB out now? Who has the right to sue him?
Who have the right? The Attorney General of the Federation. Because what happened is against the state. It's just like if I decide now and said, I want to be governor in Oyo State. And then I bring some riffraff, just like they did in Oyo State some time ago when they caught them in a particular building that they want to, the Yoruba people want to take over. You know, see how they ran it up. So the Attorney General is not going to be the governor against those people. It's the state versus those people who conspire to want to take the governor of Oyo State. So the Attorney General will do it, but then the question is, in Nigeria, leaders, they always work together as hawks. They use the word hawks. Because in leadership, we all have groups. If you belong to the ruling class, particularly the elites, and that's why, with due respect, sir, my first degree is in political science. My second degree, which is at the master level, I major in foreign policy. So in that kind of situation, when you are looking at democracy, he was a military man, so he wasn't under democracy. Then do you even know that it's an offense? If you listen to what Oshibajo was saying, he conspired with other people to take over. So we can even take him up.
All right. Now,
that one. Yes, and then the content of his taking over.
Looking at what happened yesterday, it's of concern to some persons to say, yes, IBB might have done, the unthinkable with, also pretend the unthinkable with the annulment of the June 12 election, but that maybe he has his own good side again. People like Dangote came on that stage yesterday to say it was very instrumental to liberalization of the private sector in Nigeria, the oil sector, especially the bankers, even the media, because it was under him that all these things were liberalized and he really empowered. Although some would say maybe his cronies, his friends, and all of those persons But then the system changed at some point, and he had his own policy. He worked with a university and academic dons in, to move some of his policies as well. But then, like the June 12th thing has overshadowed whatever he stood for, and the way he did that, what earned him that name Maradona was because he gave a date. Oh, I'm going to hand over. I'm going to swear in. He missed three times, and in which President Tinubu yesterday said it as well, that when they were elected as senators, he refused to swear them in, and he brought them to Abuja, and he played them and all of those things. But then, all of these things that we have seen, that we know, and some that we'll know later, almost everybody in that room yesterday, all the leaders, from Goodluck Jonathan to, Yakubu Gowon, who praised him for restoring his ranks when he was, ousted in power and all of, everybody had superlatives to describe IBB yesterday. It was praised to the high heavens. I think looking at the papers of today, I'm heading somewhere. Okay. One of the papers quoted Olusegun Obasanjo. I think it was the Daily Trust. Yeah, it was only Obasanjo who said, was quoted to say, "You have written a book. It is Babangida's story. The book will be read, quoted, and criticized. Some will agree with you in part, others will disagree, and some may even reject it entirely." I think it was only President Obasanjo who said something close to what other persons might want to hear, to say, you have said what you feel. Nigerians have a right to criticize when it's necessary, or even to reject the book. Now, Bryce, this is what I'm saying.
Yes, sir.
When this man, that some persons will say, you have said it, that it was instrumental, to the disruption of democratic, movement in Nigeria for a long time before 1999 came, was now praised to the high heavens by almost everybody. What does that say about us? Is it just redemption for IBB, or it speaks to the fact that we're people who forget things easily?
No, you see, one of the things that IBB needs to do, if you look at him,
almost every leader yesterday praised him to the high heavens.
What I'm saying is that I was trying to lay a foundation that in our country, what we have today is not democracy.
So what do we have?
In political science, we call it elitism.
How do you mean?
Government of elites, by the elite, and for the elite. If, let's say it was one sergeant that ran away, was involved in the killing of Murtala Mohammed. One sergeant never returned to them. Assuming the one came back, the turn-up will not be many. Those who is who, they were beneficiary of IBB's good fortune one way or the other. For example, Dangote was just nobody. From what we have heard, he was a collaborator with the military people. Even MKO Abiola himself, the ITT, remember Fela sang ITT, International Activity. He was the one involved in this telephone we're not using.
Allegedly.
So he took some allegedly. Oh, no, I mean he took the contract.
Yeah.
So there is no doubt about that.
No, you mentioned the thief thing. That's what I'm saying.
No, I'm just quoting.
Fela song.
That most of the people you see who have to say you cannot come.
You mean they were beneficiaries of his benevolence?
Yeah, of his benevolence in time past. Even those who felt hot. You cannot come to the palace and point to the palace and say your mother is away. You can't do that because it was his own day of ceremony. And it's better you don't go than to come to that place where men, international bodies are there, and then you now tell me and say, look, I look at you. If in another climb, you ought to have been like this. They will not go there. And those who said closer, he used try to even address it. So the problem with us in our country... Yeah,
according to the statement credited to Obasanjo, that this is your book.
This is your
people
story.
Have a right. This is your truth. People have a right to criticize or even reject. So expect it.
Yes. So what I was trying to say, let me just veer to Ghana.
Yeah.
Why Nkrumah was in charge, there were those who helped Nkrumah to get that there. Among them is Busia and many other people. But by the time Nkrumah get to the place, he allowed the thing to get to his head, to the extent that he doesn't listen to correction. And I read in one of the books of Chief Babangida, he said, I even advised him to travel so that he could be relieved of the tension of governance. And eventually, he was overtaken, the CIA were involved, the local military were involved, and Nkrumah went. But by the time generation were following, there are people who came back to celebrate Nkrumah as one of the greatest men that have ever come from Africa. So in life, history, you can't cancel it. But not everybody will assess history as it is. Number one, there are those who lack courage. Number two, there are those who are collaborators. In fact, in every collectivity, there are three groups of people. Number one, those who make things to happen. Number two, those who watch things to happen. Number three, those people who never allow things to work. And so, if you allow people to be critics who will tell IBB the real story, will have been maybe people like Ganifa Emi of late memory, people like me.
All right. We have
sorry,
to go.
Femi Falana.
Yeah.
So when you bring all these people, they'll be able to say, Mr. IBB, this is fallacious. This is what you did.
All right.
This is how you lock up in these places. And then remember, the other army officer, young army officer that crashed at Ejigbo, their stories that are still behind it.
Yeah.
And many other
It was mentioned as well.
Dele Giwa story also there. So
Okay.
people are going to say a lot.
All right.
He has written book, but then he has not written the whole history. It's
Yeah.
just because it's just a chapter of his life.
All right.
Many more people are still going to write.
Right,
Many are still
yeah.
going to review.
All right.
And eventually we'll know how we're going to end it up.
We must sincerely thank you because, we've spoken to history. And what we are doing here at some point will become history as well. And we should go.
Yeah, we should go. I remain Uzom Sokejepo and stay safe over the weekend. See you next week.
All right. Barrister Moses Obaditon, thank you for your time.
Thank you for the privilege.
And for being part of history.
Yes.
This is history in our own very eyes as well. Femi Ojo is my name. We hope that we do right because we hope posterity will be kind to us as well. Stay safe over the weekend and, God bless Nigeria. Bye.